And for those people who were at the graduate session last week, we were looking at how dropping into mindfulness, into the quality of consciousness that we call mindfulness, by paying attention um, to the whole of our experience non-judgmentally. Quite often what's opened up is a kind of richness, a kind of multicolor experience, um, which is perhaps different from when we are on autopilot, in which there isn't really so much consciousness, or indeed when we are thinking and just in thinking, in which case it's kind of like a one-dimensional experience. When we drop into space of presence, we can find that we're aware of our sensory experience, aware of our conceptual experience, aware of the spaces in between. So um, it's quite often described by people when they start to pay attention um, just how rich and varied life is, moment by moment. Um, there's there can be great pleasure to this because it means that the delights of the world are opened up to us, the tastes and sounds and the space of nature in the world perhaps becomes more available to us. We're more fully here rather than just in an abstract commentary of what's here. Like we get to experience the actual play rather than just the critique. Um, However, it can also sometimes be challenging to be opened up to the richness of experience, because it also means we're perhaps sometimes more awake to some of the difficulties that are here, like pain or other difficult sensations in the body. Maybe more opened up to um, some of the difficulties in the world that we might be connected to and um, are challenging to be with, painful to be with. So, whilst awareness is wonderful and being with this richness, most people say is worth it, um, it's also helpful to have ways of working with our experience, whether delightful or difficult. So, this is where making attentional choices can come in. And there's a range of choices that we can make. Once we're aware, one of the benefits is that we have some choice about where we place our attention and how often. Um, and so often kind of the sort of middle part of a mindfulness training is to, um, once we've opened up to what's here, to kind of learn what to do with it. So I'll give a few examples of ways that we can pay attention in skillful ways, or options that we have to make a skillful choice. One possibility is to play with um, the width or narrowness of our attention. We can choose to focus in. So we practice this perhaps when we come to an attentional anchor, such as with mindfulness of breathing. Or sometimes it might be more appropriate to open out. Some of the benefits of a narrow attention are quite often it can bring us a quality of stability and groundedness. And often we can see more clearly perhaps the winds of experience around that place of anchor. So kind of like, having a still place in the center of the storm. Some of the benefits of opening out are that we get to see how each of the elements of our experience don't have to dominate. So we can see thoughts are here, we can see body sensations are here, we can experience sounds coming in and out, but with this quality of not needing to hone in or indeed to avoid. So the kind of twin extremes of grasping or aversion that we often get caught in. By opening up to the space, there's a quality of allowing. And whether if our experience is difficult, then sometimes we might notice in this space how it's not all difficult. There are perhaps some okay or even pleasant experiences that are here in the midst of difficulty. And also, we're maybe not so caught up. So just like when we are when you drop a salt into a cup, then often that it's not the same as dropping salt into a lake. It's much less of a it's a much more diluted experience. Just bear with me 1 second, please. Sorry about that. We've got a double room booking, so somebody else is expecting to be in here. But when we go into the practice, I'll be able to sort that out because they're not due in here fully until 8 o'clock. Okay, so I'm just going to regroup and just remind myself where I was. Yeah, so narrow and wide attention is one possibility. And the wide attention has this quality of a more kind of diluted space around what's here. So if something is difficult, then perhaps we can see that not the whole of our experience is difficult. Another possibility is attuning to the experience of reality. So once we're in being mode, once we've actually dropped into that richness of experience, we may get more of a sense of the connecting to how things are. And when we look in this way, we might be more experientially connected to how things are changing moment by moment. That whatever is here now is not the same as it was 2 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, a week ago, a month ago, etc., etc. So however difficult an experience is at the moment, it's not stuck. Indeed, even difficult experiences themselves aren't stuck. So if we watch a difficult experience unfold, we can sometimes see how even though difficult experience can follow on another difficult experience, it is still continually changing. This was one of the things that caught me up actually when I was in the midst of a very long period of depression quite a long time ago, is I hadn't realized that although my experience was continuing to be difficult, it was continually changing. Whereas I was like, oh, it's Groundhog Day. I'm still feeling depressed. I'm still feeling anxious. But actually the kind of constituents of that experience was continually actually in movement. And one day it wasn't there anymore. So I'd like to have known that earlier on, to realize that I was actually in a process of change, even though it was different kinds of difficulty for quite a long time. Realizing our connectivity also can be very valuable. So recognizing that just as things are continually in change in us, so they are in everything else. And because we are connected to everything else, then the changes in the environment also are affecting us. So in that way too, things are not static. So particularly if we have things going on in our everyday lives, then then those external events are also in change. They won't last forever. As the saying sometimes goes, this too will pass. So that applies both internally and externally. So recognizing reality. And the other kind of helpful approach that we have as an attentional choice is to let go of striving for particular outcomes. So when we drop into a mindful mode, there's the invitation to not have to struggle to reach a particular state, to not have to try to be happy, to not have to try to be not in this particular difficulty. We can make intentions for how we're going to be and be with ourselves and our situation moment by moment. But if we can practice this with a sense of no expectation and of trust, then that takes us out of the striving and into more of an allowing, curious space where we can invest in looking after ourselves moment by moment and trust that that looking after ourselves with trust and kindness and interest and experimentation, that can actually help us through in a way that struggling for a particular state doesn't, because actually we're then investing in reality. And when we can use our mindfulness to see what's happening and make skillful choices, we're actually continually learning. Whereas if we're stuck just in a conceptual mode of, I want to get here, and maybe stuck in the rumination about that, we're not really learning in the same way as if we experiment with what's happening directly in the moment. Because when we have a goal, it takes us into the future. So this actually then creates learning, which over time enables us to make more skillful decisions, which means that we cultivate a virtuous cycle of flexible, adaptive learning. And with that, then over time comes greater resilience. So this is a kind of a gradual process, but it's a gradual process that happens by paying attention moment by moment. So I'm going to suggest that during the practice, we experiment with a few of these different ways of attending to our moment by moment experience, to try them out. And we know them all. We've all practiced them before. They're all in an 8-week mindfulness course. But particularly when difficulty is here, it might be valuable to have a reminder. Okay, so let's settle in, shall we? So taking a pause. Maybe letting the eyes close and dropping into being mode. So to begin with, let's allow ourselves a little bit of space just to come into being, to drop down from whether it's autopilot or thinking, conceptual mind, to let go into being, perhaps into our senses, or if we prefer, to anchor to a particular part of our sensory experience, such as breathing or sounds or some other part of our body or the whole body. So now from this narrow attention, opening up to a wider attention, opening up to the whole of our experience. This could be the breath, body, sounds, thoughts, just letting it all come in and happen. And noticing how it is to open from one focus to an open presence, an open, wide, a spacious presence. Noticing how every experience in open awareness is a part of a wider whole. So sounds can come, body sensations, thoughts, all can come, and they're just like drops of salt in a lake rather than drops of salt in a cup. They happen, but the context in which they happen is wide. And awareness offers a vast space for them to happen in. And now seeing about narrowing the attention again. So coming from the um, open awareness back to an anchor, perhaps coming back to breath, or back to the feet, or back to just sounds, and just having a play, see what this is like to return to narrow focus. And now widening to open awareness again. So opening up, letting go of the anchor, and letting everything come in equally. No focus, just awareness. And now, particularly bringing to mind the qualities of reality to this present moment experience. This experience is impermanent. It is moment by moment changing. Its very nature, like the nature of everything in life, is of change. So if this moment is pleasant, no need to grasp to it. If this moment is difficult, no need to push it away, but trusting that as we stay with it, it is already changing. Can we let go of the twin vices of grasping and aversion? See how it is just to go with the flow of the transition, the ever happening transition. Both the internal and the external are in fluidity, and they're also interrelated. Experiencing, if it's cold where you are, experiencing the effect of this on the skin and the felt sense of this. Knowing that this too is changing. Whether there's something that has brought us, an event that's brought us a sense of delight or difficulty today, these external events are continually in flux, as are our inner reactions and responses to them. So can we just go with the flow for now? Letting go of the twin vices of grasping and aversion. And not only this, but we tend to create an image in our minds about what we'd like to be happening and grasp for that, or fear what we don't want to happen and try to avoid that. So even at the level of our imagination, we move away from the experience of the present moment and striving and pushing away is cultivated. So can we let go of this and instead just attune to the experience of now in the body, and using the mindfulness methods that we have, invest it with skill through perhaps offering kindness to this moment, offering patience to this moment, offering curiosity to this moment, offering acceptance to this moment. So mindful choosing becomes the continuing asking and answering of the question, what's needed right now? So in the final phase of this practice, inviting you to guide yourself according to the experience that arises, using any one of these methods, a narrow or a wide attention, reminding ourselves of the nature of change and interconnectivity, letting go of goals and coming back to our intentions for now, and investing this now with attitudes that may bring flourishing as best we can. As experience unfolds, what is it that you need to bring to this moment as it unfolds? And practicing this, so magically I've changed room, and I'm noticing it's a lot colder in this room. But maybe I'll turn the heating on in a moment. In the meantime, I'm going to give you another chance to work in smaller groups. And I'd like to invite any reflections on the theme of making mindful choices, attentional choices, and anything in particular that came up as we practiced that during the meditation. So we'll give this some, about 8 to 10 minutes. So I'll mix up the groups again. See you soon.